Hello, everyone. Welcome to our fifth episode of the Son of a podcast. I will be your host today. We're going back to the normal episodes. I am Gabe, as you know, and I am with my father.
I am your father.
And today we will be talking about living in Spain versus living abroad. So it's kind of linked to last episode where my dad was asking me about what it was like moving away. And as you guys know, we mentioned it briefly in last episode. My dad moved from Spain when he was 18. Well, I'm more or less, I think. I don't know. We'll get into it and we'll find out. So we'll touch a bit about that, and he'll give us some context and what he was feeling about. And yeah, let's get right into it.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's go. So as I said, you moved away. Could you give a bit of context about that? When, where,
Yes. It wasn't as early as you say. It wasn't as early as 18. When I graduated, I actually moved away from home for a while. I had sort of like a gap year. And then when I was 19, I moved away to Madrid for another year. And it was after that I moved to Spain, to the UK. I moved to the UK, I believe I must have been like 20 or something like that, 20 or borderline 21. My birthday's in December, so let's just say I was about to turn 21 when I moved to the UK, or maybe I had. My memory is terrible, by the way. All you three listeners that listen to this, you probably know us anyway, and you know that I have a terrible memory for dates and for pretty much everything. and yeah, I moved away, and I was away for around just under 4 years.
Okay.
And then I came back to Spain and have never looked back.
And why did you decide to go from Spain to the UK? What was the reasoning behind that?
Love. My girlfriend
Love.
my girlfriend was studying in the States in the UK at that time. She was studying in Kingston upon Thames, and because I'd gone to the British school here in Spain, although at that time it wasn't British, it was more American than anything. We were trained to leave the country, basically. Also, back in Spain in the late 80s or early 90s, there wasn't really much of a future for anybody that wanted to be anything in life here in Spain, or at least that's the way we were brought up to think. So it was only natural that I went to the UK. Okay. And at the time I was very, very excited to do it.
Fair enough. And what was the experience like back then compared to, well, I guess from what you listened to my experience last week of moving? Obviously, it's not the same country; it's Ireland and the UK. But I feel like they're quite similar. They have their quite similar tendencies, I guess.
Yeah.
What was it like moving in the 90s from Spain to the UK? Because I feel like it must have been quite different to me moving now, no?
Yes, there were two very, very, very different worlds. You have to bear in mind that even though Spain stopped being a dictatorship in 1975,
yeah,
the transition between dictatorship to democracy took a long, 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 long time. And I would even go as far as saying that even now, we're still not quite fully transitioned. There's still that weird mentality, dictatorship mentality, post-dictatorship mentality. But at that time, it was very, it was very present. Also, the European Union wasn't what it was now, so Spain was a very standalone country, so to speak. And there wasn't much going on here. There wasn't, at least down here in the coast, in the south of Spain. There wasn't much going on. So the difference between living in Spain and living in the UK was night and day. It was absolutely night and day. It was going
continue.
It was almost going from a semi-third world country to a civilized country, and so I loved it. I was dying to do it. And when I first got to the UK, I was in the seventh heaven.
And did you even experience that, even though you're moving from Madrid to the UK? Because you said you were living in Madrid for a couple of years.
No, I was living in Madrid for a year, yes. And even the difference between Madrid and the coast was also very different. Madrid, obviously being the capital, it was a huge city. And yes, it was a cosmopolitan city. There was a lot to do. I didn't do much because I didn't have any money. But yes, there was a big difference between Madrid and the coast. The coast here was still tiny. It was still very
Hmm.
tiny.
Yeah.
Well, tiny. I'm not talking about size. I'm talking about mentality. And so obviously because I went to an international school, a British international school, moving to the UK wasn't such a culture shock because obviously I had a lot of friends from different countries. So
Yeah.
just hearing them speak, it wasn't terribly unfamiliar territory. And my girlfriend had already been there for at least a year and a bit studying. So through letters and through phone conversations, I knew a little bit about what I was stepping into. I'm not really sure
Okay.
what that's what you asked, but
Yeah.
I mean the differences were huge. It wasn't a culture shock for me,
Yeah.
but the
Okay.
differences were abysmal. Yeah, I mean anything from having drinking Dr Pepper. You couldn't get Dr Pepper in Spain at that time. You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
like yeah, Dr Pepper, deep pan pizzas, you know, or even pizzas for that matter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was quite a thing. You could get Pizza Hut, but that was only in Madrid. You know,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So it was good. It was good while it lasted, I have to say.
And obviously, because what me and you did are quite differently. Obviously, number one, for location, because I've come to Ireland and you went to the UK. But also because I've come to Ireland to study in university, whereas you didn't. You went
Exactly.
and you were just working there, right?
Exactly. I went. For me, it was more or less an adventure. My idea was to study.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might have mentioned before that my idea at that time was to become a musician.
Yeah.
Although I hadn't really thought it out in my mind, but I wanted to be a rock star, not a musician. I wanted to be a rock star,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a great at the time practically the only modern music school that you could attend around here and around these parts was one called the what's it called? I can't remember now. The Guitar Institute. There you go. Oh man, I almost didn't got it. In fact, it's so big. I don't know how I can't remember because it's grown and grown throughout the years. At that time, it had only just been founded, not too long before,
Okay.
and it did have affordable courses that you could do. And because my girlfriend was in the UK and she was there, I thought it'd be a great idea to go there. The land of opportunity, get a job, earn some money, and start studying guitar. So
Mm-hmm.
that was my idea. So it wasn't so much an adventure. I mean, it was an adventure, but I had a small plan in
Okay.
mind.
And why, if you don't mind getting into it, because also I'm asking
Uh,
because I don't know, I didn't know this. Why did you like? What happened? Why didn't you need to get into that, or did you get into it and then you just left because it wasn't what you expected, or what?
I,
What was it?
I did get into it.
Okay.
I did get into it, and it changed my life.
You studied there. You did it.
I did. I did. I studied
I
there
had
for
I had no clue.
not long. I think it was like 6 months. It was one of the shortest course because I mean,
Okay.
I said they were affordable. But when I mean
Like,
affordable, I mean that they weren't thousands of pounds,
yeah.
but it was quite a bit. I had to save up,
Yeah.
but I did do it, and it changed my life musically. Uh, First of all, because made me realize that the world of music was much broader than I expected, at
Mm-hmm.
least the guitar set of music. And second, it also made me realize it was much harder than I expected.
Okay.
Right by that time, I'd already been playing guitar, not for long, maybe 2 3 years. I didn't get my first guitar till I was very very old, till I was 18. And in fact, it was Alfredo that got me my first guitar.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you that story another time. And when I got there, my idea was to be a typical rock star grunge, like shoegazer type thing. But I also wanted to be like Josie Trian and Steve Vai, all these idols, the little '80s hair metal, shredders. So I wanted to be
Yeah.
everything. And my idea was to go to this guitar school and finish this course and come out being a shredder. When I realized that there's so much more to music theory, to the way the instrument works, to the way you can think about your instrument,
Yeah.
I came out a different guy. When I came out of there, I suddenly started listening to acid jazz, to Radiohead, to big band music, to jazz. It was an eye opener. It was great, absolutely great. I loved it, and the level of the teachers, incredible. There's a young dude, not so young anymore. There was a young dude at that time
Yeah.
called Guthrie Govan, who throughout the years has become practically one of the most incredible, most revered guitar players in the world.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't actually teach me, but he was teaching at that time.
Yeah.
Just started teaching over there. Yeah, incredible level of teachers. They were incredible, and it just opened up my mind. So it was absolutely great. In that sense, my trip to the UK totally fulfilled its purpose. It wasn't a long course, but it was great.
And why didn't you continue? Why didn't you go into another course? Did you just couldn't afford it, or you were like,
I don't know.
I did-
This short course opened my mind so much. There was so much to digest. I didn't feel I even really had to. Of course, I should have. Of course, I should have. I also realized right there and then that there was a big chance that music as a profession was probably not for me after all. Because
okay, that's
although,
interesting.
yeah, because I suddenly realized that there was much more to it than that. You know, it's like being wanting to be an artist and wanting to be an architect type thing.
Yeah.
You know, you can doodle around with a pen and paper, and you can do some nice colorful bits of art, and then hang them up on a wall, color art, and try to sell it, and then you can try to design a building, right? Okay, so for me, when I came out of there, I realized that if I had to become a musician, I would have to become the architect, not the artist, because I fell in love with the architecture of music.
Right. Okay.
At the same time, I know myself, and I don't have that kind of stamina, and my mind isn't so organized that I could actually become a professional musician in the way I wanted to. I would have to give up everything and spend 8-9 hours a day learning the craft, learning to be a good musician, and I know myself, I would never be able to do that, especially when I was 21.
Yeah.
So I started planting the seed in my mind that music would be always a lifelong passion, but not a profession.
Okay.
So that's why I didn't go back. That's why I didn't do another course.
Fair
I
enough.
should have, really, but
Yeah. Well, then you probably wouldn't be here, would you?
yeah.
So then from there, you just started doing normal jobs, right? You just started working. You were in a pizzeria, if I'm not wrong. Did you do that straight away?
Yeah, well, even during that time, because this was sort of like a weekend / evening course, so I had all day long to do things. So when I first got there, what was the story? Let's see if I remember.
What was the story?
Sorry?
No, I just found it funny that you said, what was the story? I just found it amusing.
Well, yeah, because I didn't know we were going to talk about this, so I didn't prepare. Otherwise, I would have asked Alfredo or Nikki. They have much better memory about my life than I do, chronologically. Anyway, yeah, I was working menial jobs. Jobs. I was working jobs. I started working in, I think it was a pizzeria, Deepam Pizza Co. in Kingston upon Thames, as a pizza chef, or a pizza maker, we used to call it back in the day, or just a cook. Nowadays they glorify these things. I was making pizzas and salads all day long, basically.
Yeah.
At the same time, or sometime in between, I started working in the body shop. In a shopping center as well, in the Bentel Center in Kingston upon Thames. There I was working in the stock room, not in the floor. I never do that. Selling cosmetics, but I was basically managing the stock. I was the stock manager in there.
Yeah.
And I ended up working in a nightclub as well.
Yeah.
So I was doing
with Fred, where he was
with Fred.
manager of various nightclubs.
He was working there, and eventually I needed more and more money, so I ended up working with him as well.
Fair enough.
And I did that I was doing all those 3 jobs in and out for the 3.5 years, for the almost 4 years I was there.
Okay. And overall, now with hindsight and looking back, you would say that you had a positive experience and you enjoyed your time there, no?
It was by far the most formative. They were the most formative years of my life. The reason I am the way I am now is because I went to England. I can say that without a single doubt. Were they the best of years of my life? They were both the best and by far the worst as well. I started living this confusion whether my life was going to be a life of art and rock stardom, or basically that's what I wanted to do. When I started realizing that maybe that wasn't the life that I had to, I wasn't predestined or destined to follow that path, I started questioning everything, which was, well, what the hell am I doing here? Right? Literally, like, why am I in the world? And in that sense, England didn't help. The murkiness of the weather, the people, only helped me bring me down more and more into my abyss. But at the same time, it helped me because I started falling into myself and thinking all these thoughts. Those thoughts actually helped me shape the person I am now. So it's kind of weird. They were the worst and the best times of my life. I was fully independent. Eventually, I broke up with my girlfriend, which means that I was, for the first time in my life, 100% alone, owner of my life. And I love that. But at the same time, in the UK, or at that time anyway, I'm assuming it's the same now, if you wanted to do things, you needed money. And if you wanted to have money, you needed to work. And you needed to dedicate your time to work. And I didn't want to work. I wanted to become an artist, at the same time.
Yeah.
I also had my band, and we were playing gigs. It was weird. It was a weird time, but it was great. I wouldn't change it for my life. I know what I should have done, which I didn't do.
But
then quit all those 3 part-time jobs and get a full-time job, or accept the promotions I was offered, which I always turned down. If I would have accepted those promotions, I would have had more money, and maybe I would have had more freedom to do things, and maybe I would have not come back to Spain. But I didn't, and I didn't want to at that time. I don't know. I was gonna say that I was very stupid. I don't know if I was stupid or not. But at that time, I just didn't want to commit myself to doing anything that I would maybe regret.
Yeah.
I remember being offered when I worked in the body shop as a stock manager there. The owner of that franchise also owned 2 or 3 other shops in that shopping center. One was a Star Wars paraphernalia shop, and the other one was a Levi's store. And he offered me to be the stock manager for all 3. Full-time contract, et cetera, et cetera. Great money and all that. I said yes. And the day before I had to sign my contract, I never went back. I didn't even tell them I was going back. I can't remember the guy's name, but I truly apologize for that. He must have been up the creek, having no stock person for any of his shops. Oh my God, poor guy. I truly apologize for that. I shouldn't have done it. And maybe what I should have done is maybe I should have stuck with it. I should have signed my contract, earned a little bit more money. Who knows where I'd be now? But I didn't do it.
Well, I mean, maybe you wouldn't have been here, Well,
I wouldn't for sure.
Everything happens for a reason, and you also learn from your mistakes, I guess. Even though maybe at that time you didn't see it as a mistake, but
no, I don't think. Looking back in retrospect, I don't think
you learn from your life experiences, I should say.
Yeah. I learned a lot about myself during those 3 years, 4 years.
So how did you know it was time to move back to Spain? What were the reasons, and what was kind of going through your mind at that time?
Well, it was pretty clear to me that the UK for me had run its course. The very main reason was, as I told you, I had slowly fallen into this mental abyss of thought. What's going to be what's happening to my life? What does it all mean? Becoming a musician, being an artist versus the corruption of everyday life. That kind of thing. I was growing up as well. When I got there, I was 21. By this time, I was almost 25. I was starting to see clearly that I needed a future, but I wasn't any closer to trying to find that future for myself. And it was also very clear that life in the UK wasn't gonna make it for me. Right? There was much more opportunity than in Spain, but I didn't feel any of the avenues that I touched. I didn't feel that any of them were the way I should be going. Right? At the same time, because of all that, I was still reticent to commit to any kind of lifelong work commitment or anything like that, right? So I was still turning down promotions. I was still being told. By that time, I was living in Nottingham, and I was working only in nightclubs, and I was being told that I should be promoted and become a manager or a supervisor, or this and that. And we had to wear suits in those positions. I did not want to wear a suit, that kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
I was still pretty naive in that kind of thing, and also I didn't see myself working for the next 30 years in nightclubs. So all that was bringing me down. I was starting to get to know myself personally quite a bit better, but it was starting. My own thoughts were starting to bring me down. They were dark. They were dark. There was dismal. There was nothing bright about them, and that also had a lot to do with the weather. In Nottingham, it's very, very cold. It's not, you know. It's always rainy. It was always dark. It was always somber. That reflects heavily on the people as well. If you're there, and if you're from the UK, and especially if you're from the North or the Midlands, you don't realize, because that's all you know. And they're great people. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I had great friends over there, great people, but they're not. They didn't have that Mediterranean attitude. They didn't have that outburst and like. And as much as I wanted to leave when I was there, when I got to the UK, sorry, by the time I left, I was dying to be surrounded by the Spanish temperament, and I needed that sort of, I needed that around me to lift me out of my deep, somber funk that I was in my own mind. Okay. And so the last year or so, I just dedicated it to saving up my money to bring my stuff back and to get a plane and come back. I asked my parents for asylum, and I came back to Spain.
Okay, so it was kind of out of necessity, kind of personal necessity, not.
It was
work
very
or
personal.
anything like that.
Yes, if I had stayed in the UK, I would have gone into very, 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 very dark places, and I didn't want to do that.
Okay, and then you moved back when you were what, 25, 26?
No, I think I must have been 25 by that time. Yes,
25, and. You've been in Spain ever since until now when you're 53?
Never
so you've
looked
been there
back.
For 28, 29 years, around there?
Yeah. Never looked back. It was the best decision I ever did. Love it.
So you would say that it was the best decision that you've ever had?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, with hindsight and everything, would you say you prefer living in Spain or living abroad? Because obviously, at the end of the day, that's the question of this podcast, isn't it?
Living in Spain, for sure.
Living in Spain?
Sure. Yeah.
And what's the reason behind that? Is it because of just everything in general, or?
Well, I want to be particular about this. I want to say living in Spain. When I mean living in Spain, I mean living in the south of Spain, living in the Costa del Sol specifically, where I live. Because I think the combination of elements is absolutely perfect for a person like me. I'm not saying it's for everybody, but for a person like me, the combination of elements is absolutely perfect. It's a perfect balance. If you're not super, super ambitious when it comes to money, when it comes to a high-end lifestyle, then it's perfect because, I mean, I'm not saying that you can't get a high-end lifestyle here, but it's quite hard compared to somewhere like London or Madrid or Barcelona.
Yeah, of course.
The temperament of the people is just right. They have attitude, but not too much attitude. They're sociable, but not too sociable. They can get a little bit of everything. So when I need somebody to get me out of my antisocialness, I can find it here. When I need to step away from that, I can also find it here. The weather is absolutely perfect. It's a little bit too cold in winter, but when I mean a little bit too cold, I'm talking about 12, 13 degrees.
Yeah, so exaggerated.
I love the heat. And more, I love the heat. I love the heat when it's 35 degrees and people are complaining. I'm in heaven. It's very humid, but not too humid. It's not South America or Miami type humid,
Yeah.
So the weather's bearable and it's days are long. What can I say? I could go on. And on. We live just by the seaside in front of us, but behind us we have the mountains. That creates a beautiful fresh breeze in the evening and in the very first thing in the morning. I love it. I absolutely love living here. It changes my life. Every morning when I get up, I count my blessings. I say, thank God I'm here.
Okay, so now you know the Malaga town hall should sponsor us because we're giving them a great ad right now.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
of
It's one
how
of
to
those
move
things.
here.
If you've never done it, it's a great holiday place.
Mhm.
But if you spend here more than a year in certain conditions, then I don't think anybody would ever go back. Now, how about you? That's my question to you. You've been away for a year and a bit now.
Yeah.
Does any of the things I say, does that resonate with you at all? Or you're
Yeah, definitely. I would say a lot of it does, to be honest. Obviously, more or less, more of the feelings that you were saying does, not the. Because obviously our experiences have been different of going to the music school and working and stuff like that. But I have to say, I feel like I'm also in a. I feel like the attitude in Ireland is a bit different. I feel like everyone here is a bit more. Is more similar to the people in Andalusia and Malaga. I feel like I've always compared Ireland and Andalusia in the sense of I feel like Ireland is the Andalusia of the Northern Isles. Northern Isles, you know what I mean? Like the
of the
up
north,
here.
yeah.
Because everyone here is more open and more open to talk, whereas I feel like in the UK everyone else is a bit more closed. They're a bit more, just keep to themselves and not as open. But yeah, I definitely, I've been thinking about this a lot actually of where I'm going to be in the future. I've been thinking
Okay.
about where I want to work in the future, what I want to do,
Interesting.
and mostly
Tell
about
me.
where.
Elaborate on that.
And I've come to the conclusion is that I'm going to start off out of Spain, working in whatever country. I don't care. At the end of the day, I don't care what country. But I would definitely end up back in Malaga, I should say, not back in Spain. Because I agree with you that the vibe, I guess, in the south of Spain, especially in Malaga, is completely different to the rest of Spain. It's much more relaxed and more open. And I definitely would end up back in Spain. I'm loving my time in Ireland, I'm loving my time in Cork. All the people that I've met, all the friendships that I've had are absolutely amazing. But at the end of the day, there's nothing that beats Malaga, to be completely honest with you. I mean,
So
first of all my friends and family are there.
You agree with me on that, yeah?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. But
But in your case, for you say all your friends and family are here. So is that what pulls you? Is that why you think that, or is there anything else? What are the elements that make Malaga unique for you?
I think that's one of the main reasons is friends and family. I'm a very, even though sometimes I feel like I don't seem like it. I'm someone that likes to be close with the people that I'm close to. I feel like Malaga is my home. You know what I mean? I feel like it's where I belong, in a sense. So yeah, I definitely want to end up back there. I want to retire, even though that's in many years' time. For now, that's where I want to go end up.
But would you say you want to, before you do that, before you want to take that step, you want to work away from Spain for a while?
Yeah.
Why do you want to do that? If you already know you want to come back, why do you want to be away first?
Purely economic reasons. That's the only reason why.
Right.
Because I love Malaga and I love Spain, but right now the pay that they give there compared to other countries is completely like they're two different worlds,
Yeah, I get it. So if you could get a job or something that paid just as much, your highest, I don't know what your idea of a good salary is, but if you could get something like that here in Spain or here in Malaga, would you just immediately move down here?
Yeah, I would do it without if they gave me the same job, just one was in Berlin and the other one was in Malaga, I would take the Malaga one without blinking twice.
Okay. And when you're talking about
Right
job, I'm assuming you're meaning within your field, right? Being you're studying to be a mechanical engineer.
Yeah, of course.
And you always told us that your dream is to work in the Formula One field. There's very little chance of doing that in Spain, or at least in Malaga.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's my dream anymore,
All right.
to be honest.
Stop press. That's a new one. Discovering new things online. Okay, elaborate more. This is turning into a very different podcast now.
Yeah. In the end, we're going to spend 30 minutes on your background in the UK, 5 minutes on the actual living abroad versus living in Spain,
Yeah.
and the rest of the time on me. Yeah, I don't know. I've noticed that I feel like it's not my dream anymore.
Okay.
It would be really cool if I could, but I don't. I'm in the stage right now where I don't know what I want to do.
Right.
What exactly I want to do, what field I want to get into.
But always,
Because that,
you still like your mechanical engineering thing, yeah?
yeah, I know I want it to be related to this.
Okay.
But what I realized is this world it's so big and it's so vast that there's like so many things you can do. I'm kind of in the moment where I just want to see what everything's like, try different things. I want to explore.
That's great. That's great.
And that's kind of what I'm doing in my classes right now, to be honest. My classes are quite varied. I have very different classes that are practical, classes that are purely theoretical, and I'm just seeing what I enjoy the most, what side I enjoy the most, and I think that I can narrow it down more of
Okay.
what.
And here's a question
wanna
for
do-
you, and this is bringing it back to the Spain versus abroad
Yeah,
thing. Obviously, abroad is not the only place to study mechanical engineering.
of course.
In fact, I understand that the Malaga University has a very good mechanical engineering department.
Yes, it does.
Do you think if you had stayed here to study, you would be thinking the same thoughts now? Or do you think being away from Spain has led you to suddenly this huge change? Because I saw you 3 weeks ago, you weren't thinking like that. Or at least we didn't talk about it.
Of what? Of moving back to
But-
Spain?
No, the whole Formula One thing, you know, I mean, because that was the reason why you wanted to study mechanical engineer.
Yeah, no. I feel like this was something that I kind of developed at the end of last year.
Okay.
So I've known it for a few months now.
All right. And do you think that broadening of your mind, do you think that could have happened if you had stayed here in Spain, or do you think that was being away was fundamental to that change of heart?
I want to say that it's more my course.
Right.
Because my course is quite a mix of theoretical and practical stuff.
Right.
There's a lot. We do welding, we do workshop, we do machine maintenance, we do a load of practical elements as well as design. And I don't know if they give that in the UMA, in the University of Malaga. And I think that practical side has made me realize that I really like the practical side of stuff.
Great.
So, yeah, I don't know if I would have had the same revelation, not revelation, in Malaga. Maybe I would have, maybe I wouldn't have.
Okay.
Um,
But your idea would still be to work in your field here eventually.
yeah,
Great stuff.
yeah.
Good to know.
I think I still would have continued with the same idea of moving out, then ending up in
Okay.
Spain and finishing whatever there.
Mhm.
And yeah,
Great.
just let's
Okay.
see.
And if you had to single one thing out, you've already spoken about friends and family,
Mhm.
and I think we can leave that out because that's pretty obvious. Wherever your friends or family are, your heart is going to go there. You know,
Yeah, of
whether we
course.
whether we live in Nepal or in Malaga, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But living that, if you had to say, you know, if your roommate right now turns to you and says, "Well, hey Gabe, what's the best thing about living in Spain?"
I think I would say I have to say the people.
The people, yeah.
Yeah. Obviously there's some outliers, but almost everyone that I've met, they've been more or less generally nice people, and they've been fun to be around, and they've been good people. And I feel like that is quite a unique thing in Malaga. And I know if you don't live there, it's going to sound very like, well, there's good people everywhere. But especially in the south of Spain and in Malaga, the way that people are is a very special and unique thing that I feel like it's not everywhere, you know?
Yep, I agree.
and that is definitely something that I miss.
I agree. They do have people down here do have that typical Spanish Mediterranean character that everybody, the cliche. They're boisterous. They're loud.
Yeah.
They can't shut up. They can talk for hours. But the one thing they do have in common is they are very noble. I think noble is a word.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they're so loud, it's hard to take them seriously. And sometimes you think that the Spaniards do tend to have this there's this image, we give this image of trying to find the easiest way out and the cheapest way out, and maybe not but down here they don't really live up to that. It looks like they would because they have that character, but ultimately no. Down here, people are hardworking, they're honest, they're very noble, and I agree with you. I think the character of the people here is spot on. It's refreshing. It's enlightening. It's refreshing, and it makes me feel happy. It gives me energy every day, even though I'm not a sociable guy, and the people that I know aren't Spanish. But it's nice when you walk the dogs out in the neighborhood. Everybody knows each other. They all say hi, and there's this vibrancy about them that just makes you want to stay here, basically.
Yeah. Well, they know Mom, they don't know you.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to say that, but yes. I am the husband of.
So yeah, I think that's why don't get me wrong, the people here in Cork are quite similar, which is why I said that it's the Andalusia, Ireland is the Andalusia of Spain.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that sets them out is the weather. I think the weather has quite a big impact on people.
Yeah.
And I would say I prefer the weather here than in Malaga.
You
which
do?
Is quite, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You can't.
I do. I prefer the cold. I mean,
Oh my God, you are not my child.
I find the summers there quite unbearable, to be honest. But
Oh my God.
which is quite amusing because I'm in Spain for the whole summer and I'm here for the whole of winter, so I'm kind of in the worst of both worlds kind of thing.
Dude, but how can you not like this glorious heat? Oh,
I just
man.
can't. I can't stand it. I think it's too much. It's too much for me. But it's fine. It is what it is.
Oh my God.
It's for me. It's a small thing. It's not. For me, the weather is not a big deal.
Right.
And yeah, I think that it's just that it's the combination of the people, the location as well. Malaga is absolutely beautiful. It's stunning. Obviously, my friends and family and the people that I'm closest with are living there currently.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I want to end up there.
All right. Okay. And within your timeline, are you looking at? So say you're 19 now.
Mm-hmm.
By the time you finish all your studies, you will be very, very, at the very most, you'll be 24. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like extending it till the maximum.
Uh-huh.
By what time can you see yourself being back here?
I don't know.
At what age? I mean, no idea.
I don't know.
All right, you haven't thought that far.
I mean, latest probably when I retire.
Wow. Okay. Fair
That's
enough.
just because that's the only
Yeah.
time that I can see where I don't have any job restrictions. I can freely go back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it's great. No, I was thinking, because you could say, you could very easily say, I want to have my first child in Spain. I want my children to be born in Spain.
No,
or whatever,
I don't think that far ahead, to be honest.
Okay.
Well, not that far ahead. I don't think that in depth and that detailed, because from my experience, you never know what's going to happen and things can change like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Okay. Well, we can't mention living in Spain versus living abroad without mentioning the second bit, that we're famous for, which is the food. What's your take? I can tell you my take as an experienced adult, but you as a young adult, or like you said last week, you don't consider yourself an adult yet. Do you have any opinion regarding the food?
I mean, I think the food in Spain is so much better than the food here.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong, the food here is great, but just I think we have a much bigger variety of food in Spain in general than in Ireland. Because here it's mostly, obviously, yeah, it's got to do with the weather, right? I mean, here it's mostly stews and soups and stuff like that, you know?
Warm stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Where I think in Spain we have like I said, a huge variety of just different culinary food, you know? It's if you go to the north and the south, it's completely different.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. Yeah,
So
that's
there's
why
nothing.
they call it. That's why the Mediterranean diet's so famous. And here's a question. One thing, and this was obviously 40 years ago, or 35 years ago, whatever. When I first got to the UK, and I started working in the pizzeria, when we had a big salad bar, we had to, I had to do the prep for the salad bar every morning, and of course that meant, cutting up onions, tomatoes, sweet corn, anything, right? And a lot of those vegetables were actually Spanish, right? And even the fruit was sold, orange and things like that. And I was really happy about that and really proud to be Spanish at that time. So, but I remember the first time I cut into a Spanish tomato in the UK and I ate it, I was disgusted. It was horrible. And I'll tell you why it was horrible. It didn't taste bad. It just didn't taste, full stop. And I was thinking, this is not a Spanish tomatoes. Spanish tomatoes are full of flavor. They got this zingy sweetness, and they're just full of life and flavor and color and, vibrance. But man, anything. And then I took a bite off an onion and I didn't feel anything. It didn't even sting. Whereas here, you can't even look at an onion without starting to cry. And it freaked me out. I'm assuming that's because of the, I don't know if they deep freeze them or whatever, or they mature in the UK. They're still green when they pick them, and then they mature on the way there, whatever it was, whatever processes they had. Bottom line, they lost their flavor. Is it still like that?
It's not as drastic. I mean, it's not like they have no flavor, but it's definitely not the same.
Right.
I mean, there is a lot of products that I look at in Dunnes stores. I go and it says like it's from Spain, like quite a lot of the vegetables and stuff and the fruit and veg, but it's not nearly as good, but it's not like disgusting, like you say, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
it's acceptable, it's what you expect of imported fruit and veg.
So things have improved then, because I've asked you, but I have been in the UK and Ireland since in recent years, so I can vouch for what you're saying. But at that time, it was terrible. I mean,
but also you haven't done grocery shopping here, though, have you?
Not really.
You've gone to restaurants, which is not the same.
Yeah, it's true. That is true. All right, and how about fish? Because here's the thing: I did notice that all the fish here is fresh and uncooked, whereas in the at least over there, the little bit I saw in Cork, all the fish was cooked, no matter what. It was really hard to find like fresh fish in the. I'm assuming you have to go to a proper fish market to be able to do that, seeing as you're by the seashore. But if you go to your normal supermarket, you'll never find. It's hard to find fresh fish, whereas over here everything is fresh. And I know that a lot of foreigners are pretty disgusted at the fact that you can go to a supermarket and you see all the fresh fish out there. It's not even packaged; it's like fresh, so you can pick it up with your hands and take it home. Which for us is normal, and it's the way you have to eat fish. If you prepackaged fish is like, what? No. That the one that's here was fish this morning, and that's what we're having now.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, in the big, because I go to like a very big Dunnes stores, and there they have, at the back they have a fishmongers.
Right.
Where they do have, it's not the same, which is quite funny, is they have the big beds of ice with all the fish.
Right.
But the fish, they're not whole fish, they're cut up fish.
They're already
cut
just
up, the
right?
fillets. Yeah. So you go and there'll be huge fillets of salmon. There won't be a whole salmon. There'll be the fillets.
See, it's funny that, because if you get that here in Spain, we would immediately assume it's not fresh.
Yeah.
Over here, you have the whole fish, and the fishmonger gets the fish and then cuts it up the way you want it, right in front of you. Mostly so you can see the eyes. If you can see the eyes of the fish and you see they're not milky, that they're clear, that means that it's a very nice fresh fish. And then you say, I want that fish, and that's the one I want to cut. If you see a fish with slightly milky eyes, you don't ask for it. So here, if we get offered I mean, you do get that in the fishmongers. You do get a little bit of part of the side is already for your convenience. It's already been cut up, but most people will immediately go for the fresh fish. Say, I want that fish. They ask you how you want it. Is it for, do you want to fillet it? Is it for baking? Is it for frying?
Yeah.
And then they prepare it right there and then for you. It takes a little longer, but it's what we're used to, and it's for a Spaniard, or at least somebody that lives down here in the south, not having that is a weird thing.
Yeah, I also thought that the fish was going to be cheaper, and it's not that cheap, to be honest. It's quite a bit more expensive than like poultry and meat and stuff like that.
All right. Well, it's the same here, huh?
Yeah, it just caught me by surprise.
All right, so we've covered food. What next? What do you want to talk about now? Is this it, or are we going, or what?
Yeah, I don't really have any. Oh, because we've talked about the people, we've talked about the food.
Okay. Well, I have one question for you.
Go.
I have one question for you. You've asked me about my experience when I was young, moving to the UK. Obviously, I was a little bit older than you were, but I still do remember how I felt when I moved to Madrid. Slightly different because I moved in with family in Madrid and with people there, so I wasn't on my own. But my question to you is, do any of the feelings that I've mentioned, any of that sense of adventure, do you feel any of that moving abroad?
Yeah, I feel like I definitely do. I definitely do, because it's kind of like I'm writing my own story now, if that makes sense.
It does.
Right now, it feels like I'm on my own, and I'm figuring things out on my own. With entre comillas, in quote marks. Because I'm not with you guys, and even though I can call you guys on whatever and talk to you guys if I ever need you guys, I'm experiencing everything by myself. It's just like we talked about last week, the independence.
Yeah. It's a cool feeling, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it something you would recommend?
100%. I think it's something that everyone has to go through.
Okay. Do you think that's going to make a huge difference between your future and the future of your friends that are staying in Spain? Do you think would you tell them, dude, if you can't, get out of there for a while? Or is it like, it doesn't really matter because his life's going to be okay no matter what?
I think it is beneficial to get out. Just so you can experience the world and experience the world by yourself. Yeah. I think that's a very important thing to do. But obviously it's not for everyone, and that's not everyone wants to do that, which is fine,
Yeah.
I would recommend for everyone to, like I said, go out and explore the world by yourself. See what it's like to live by yourself, to be a bit independent. Obviously, I'm not fully independent yet because you guys still financially back me fully, through and through.
Yeah, we send you that incredible amount of money, which I couldn't believe.
Yeah, exactly.
One final question I have
is,
go. You already know that you want to come back to Spain eventually, whether it be in 3 years' time, whether it be when you retire. Is that something that you knew before you left, or is that something that you've discovered since you've been away?
I think I've always more or less knew that I was going to come back, but I never really sat down and thought about it, Mm-hmm. But I feel like now I have not sat down, but I have thought about it more, and I have given it some thought, and that's definitely what I want to do. That's definitely my goal, I guess.
So you pretty much knew, even you know that Malaga is your home, and
I think so. I think so.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, well, I got nothing else.
Yeah, to be honest, I think this is a good place to wrap it up, to end it.
All right. Any ideas on next week? Where we're going to ad-lib it like this week? We're gonna go deeper.
Well, ad-lib it a bit. We might go deeper. We might not. This episode was definitely a lot more deeper than I thought it was gonna go. Yeah. Which is it's a good thing, to be honest. I think it's quite interesting.
Well, I think it's the best part of this podcast is the fact that we ask each other questions that we didn't know we were going to ask, and we discovered new things.
Definitely. I mean, I wrote down 3 questions, which we went through in the first 5 minutes of this podcast. And the rest just were coming to me as I was speaking to you and as you were speaking. So yeah, I think this is a good place to end it off, and thank you guys very much for listening this week, and we hope you enjoyed it. If there's anything else you guys wanna say before we end it?
Nothing. Thank everybody for watching. I think maybe hopefully by this week we have 3 listeners instead of 2.
Yeah.
But I hope it was worth every single minute.
Yeah, we hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, like and subscribe, then comment if you have anything to say, if you disagree with anything we said, if you agree with anything. Just generally voice your opinion. And thank you guys very much for listening to us. And talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.